we have taken today, which will be of great interest to the student community across the country and also to all the higher educational institutions. And that's the reason why we are meeting today to discuss, so that you can, in simple language, convey this to our stakeholders across the country. So the decision that we have taken is on a regulation called the University Grants Commission regulation. And this is on academic collaboration between Indian and foreign higher educational institutions to offer twinning, joint degree, and dual degree programs. And these regulations deal with three different kinds of programs: the twinning programs, joint degree programs, and dual degree programs. If you recall, on 1st February 2021, a proposal for regulatory mechanism to permit these three kinds of programs was made in the budget announcement. Since then, UGC has formed a committee, and the committee looked into all aspects on how to promote this kind of collaboration between Indian higher educational institutes and foreign higher educational institutes. The committee prepared the draft regulations, and these regulations were put up for public feedback on UGC website sometime in February, February 2021 or so. And then the public feedback was sought, and the feedback was considered, and then the regulations were finalized. And those regulations were approved today in the Commission's meeting. Now, to those who are not familiar with these three kinds of programs, very briefly, let me explain to them, because this kind of permitting our students to obtain credits from foreign universities for the award of degrees in India was also discussed in the National Education Policy 2020. So this regulation is in tune with the vision of the National Education Policy 2020. In the case of twinning programs, what we do is an Indian higher educational institution can collaborate with a foreign higher educational institution, and a student can physically go and visit the foreign educational institution, stay there for a semester or two, and obtain the credits up to a limit of 30% of the total credits required for a given program. So there is an upper cap of 30% of credits that the students can obtain through this twinning program. The opposite is also true. If an Indian higher educational institution collaborates with a foreign higher educational institution, the students of that particular university from that foreign country can also come to India, stay here in the Indian educational institution, and do credits up to 30% of the requirement for their degree program. And we believe that this kind of twinning arrangement will provide a great opportunity for our Indian students to study in a foreign country while they get the degree from the Indian institution. And for that component of the credits that the students are doing in a foreign higher educational institution, the foreign higher educational institution will give a certificate to the fact that the student has done up to 30% of the credits in their university, but the degree will be given by only the Indian higher educational institution. So this is about twinning. And in the case of the joint degree programs, in this case also both the Indian higher educational institution and the foreign higher educational institution have to sign an MOU to establish this collaboration. And the Indian students have to do credits more than 30% in the foreign higher educational institution. Similarly, in the joint degree program, the students of the foreign university have to do more than 30% of the credit requirements of their degree program. And in this case, the degree is given by the Indian Educational Institute. But however, the foreign educational institute will give a certificate indicating that the student has done these many credits from their institution. So just to make it clear, in the case of the joint degree programs, although the student is studying in a foreign higher educational institution, the degree will be given by only the Indian higher educational institution. The student will have the benefit of having a certificate and also the benefit of accessing high quality education from a foreign university as part of this joint degree program. And the third program that the student can do is called the dual degree program. So in this case also, both the institutions have to sign an MOU to establish this collaboration. And in this case also, the students have to do more than 30% of credits in the foreign university, or if the foreign university students are coming to India, they have to do more than 30% of the credits in the Indian institution. And in this case, the degrees will be given by both the Indian institution and also the foreign higher educational institution. The Indian institution will give the Indian degree, indicating on the same degree that they have done certain number of credits, more than 30% required for their degree in a foreign university. And similarly, the foreign university will give a degree on their degree, on their university degree. But however, they will indicate that the students have done more than 30% of the credits in an Indian university. So the student will get 2 degrees at the same time, one from the Indian university, indicating about their participation in the foreign university, and the other degree from the foreign university, indicating about their participation in the Indian university. And this dual degree program should not be confused with a double degree program. It is not 2 different degrees. It's the same degree, but one is given by the Indian higher educational system and the other one by the foreign educational institute. So we believe that with the introduction of this scheme through a regulation, there are several benefits to our student community in India. You see, currently we have about 4 crore students in Indian higher educational institutions. But over a period of time, we expect that this number will increase to about 10 crores. While we continue to build many higher educational institutions, it is also important, following the vision of the National Education Policy, to provide access to high quality education to our Indian students. And one way of doing that is to permit them to access this high quality education while they are in India through a collaborative mechanism. They can go for some time to this foreign higher educational institution and acquire this high quality education. So we believe that this will lead to internationalization of our higher education while the students are in India, while the students are in our own country. And this will also provide a great opportunity for our Indian students to acquire multidisciplinary education through an internationally relevant curriculum. And because of this multidisciplinary education and the additional skills that our students can get through either twinning or joint degree or dual degree programs, we believe that it will enhance the employability of our students. And because through this mechanism, the foreign students also will be coming to the Indian educational institutes to participate in twinning, joint and dual degree programs. It may attract many foreign students also to our country. And this is one of the efforts that we are putting in India, how to attract foreign students into our country. And this regulation will facilitate that mechanism. And when we have foreign students in our Indian educational institutes, it will also improve the standing of the Indian universities, because internationalization is also an important parameter in global university rankings. We believe that through this regulation, when Indian students go abroad and acquire international quality courses, and when foreign students come to India, this is also going to improve the exposure and also broaden the worldview of our students. And it's also true for the foreign students. When they come and study here, they will know more about India, Indian culture, Indian society here, and this can lead to better international collaboration between our country and several other countries from which the foreign students may come to our country. Through this regulation, when increased collaboration takes place between Indian institutes and the foreign institutes, that can also lead to faculty exchange and also sharing of the better practices among the higher educational institutions in India and also abroad. One of the important things is that lakhs of our students go abroad to acquire a foreign education, but through these regulations, it is quite possible that since they can stay at home in India and access high quality higher educational institutions, I'm sure it will lead to limiting or putting a check on the outward foreign exchange remittance, which many of our students spend in acquiring the foreign education. So we believe that through these regulations, there are going to be a lot of benefits to our student community across the country and also the higher educational institutions. Now, which are the institutes which can participate in these collaborations through these regulations? One of the bottom lines for us is to maintain quality in higher education, and therefore these regulations mention that only those Indian higher educational institutes which have a NAAC grading of 3.01 and above, they are eligible for this kind of collaboration. Or if they are among the top 1,000 QS rankings or Times Higher Education rankings, then also they will be eligible for these collaborations. Or if they are among the top 100 university category NIRF ranking, then they will also be eligible. So you need to fulfill any one of these conditions. Either you need to have a NAAC grading of 3.01 or above, or you should be among the top 100 universities as per NIRF ranking, or you should have been listed among the top 1,000 universities in the QS rankings or the Times Higher Education rankings. And what about the foreign higher educational institutions with whom our Indian higher educational institutions can collaborate? Where, well, we can collaborate only with those foreign higher educational institutions which are listed among the top 1,000 QS rankings or the Times Higher Education university rankings. Similarly, if they want to collaborate with our Indian universities, our Indian universities have to satisfy one of these three conditions, that is NAAC grading 3.01 and above, or you should be among the top 1,000 rankings in the QS or the Times Higher Education rankings, or you should be among the top 100 university rankings in the NIRF. Now, these institutions are called the entitled institutions. They fall under the entitled category, and they can offer these programs without any further approvals from UGC. All that they need to do is get these programs approved in their statutory bodies of the universities, and wherever required, they also need to get approvals from the statutory councils, depending on the discipline in which they want to have these collaborations, and then go and offer these programs. Of course, they need to inform the UGC about this MOU and the type of programs that they will be conducting, so that the UGC will be in know of what kind of programs are being offered by these collaborating institutions. So as I said, as far as the twinning is concerned, the students can do up to 30% of the credits required for their program in India. And in the case of the joint and dual degree programs, the students have to do at least 30% of the credits that are required for the program requirements. They can, of course, do more than 30% depending on the arrangement that they have. So, as I mentioned, there is no further permissions required for seeking equivalence from any authority. It is up to the higher educational institutions and their statutory bodies to decide on the equivalence of these programs. One thing that we would like to make it clear to all of you is that these twinning, joint and dual degree programs are applicable only for the conventional programs, meaning that they are not allowed in any online and ODL mode of programs. So it has to be done only in the conventional mode, in the sense that our students have to physically go to the foreign universities, and similarly, the foreign students have to physically come to India and stay in our Indian higher educational institutes to get their credits. And as far as the fee structure is concerned, both the Indian higher educational institutions and the foreign higher educational institutions have to work out a mechanism, and they have to make it public. This fee structure has to be make it public right at the time of the admission. And you also know that one of the basic principles of the national education policy is to make our education affordable to the students. Therefore, it is also to be noted that the fee structure that the both institutes will decide, it has to be reasonable so as to make quality higher education accessible and affordable to all sections of the society. And this is something that we need to keep in our mind. The institutes have to work out appropriate fee mechanism so that the education is affordable to the students. And these regulations also mention about the exit pathway that the students have to be provided with in case the students are not able to continue in their program. The institutions have to work out a suitable exit pathway for the students so that students will not suffer if they exit from the program. And of course, the Indian higher educational institutions have to abide by all the norms prescribed by the Government of India from time to time for collaborating with specific countries and with institutions in specific countries. The Indian higher educational institutions have to enter into a written memorandum of understanding or an agreement with its partner, and the foreign higher educational institutions also have to categorically include and the Indian institutions have to categorically include in the MOU the purposes and the related provisions for the collaboration. And wherever foreign exchange is involved, the higher educational institutions, both Indian as well as the foreign institutions, they have to abide and comply with the relevant regulations and norms and notifications and the instructions issued by the Reserve Bank of India and the Government of India. Friends, this is what we wanted to inform you. This is a very, very important regulation which will encourage both the Indian institutions and the foreign institutions to collaborate with each other and bring that diversity and richness into the Indian higher educational system. Thank you for listening to this brief introduction. And if you have any questions, you are most welcome to raise your hand using your electronic hand, and we will unmute you. Let me first go to Sheetal Bancharia. Please, could you please unmute yourself?
Good evening, sir. This is Sheetal Bancharia from Indian Express. I wanted to speak to you regarding the bandwidth of the foreign institutes that has been allowed. In the draft regulations, the cap was limited to 500, top 500 universities in QS and THE. So why has the UGC increased the bandwidth for institutes which will be allowed to partner? And how does that the commission look at the quality aspect with respect to the increased bandwidth of ranking? Thank you.
Right. Well, the increased bandwidth is to provide more opportunities for more collaborations. And from Indian side, we have made it top 1,000 rankings either in QS or THE. So to make it compatible for the foreign universities also, we have made it, if they are within top 1,000 QS rankings or THE, then we can go for the collaboration. Right. So let me go to Anand. Could you please unmute yourself?
Am I audible? I'm Abhay from Siksha.
Okay.
Sir, I wanted to understand, will there be a cap on number of degrees or number of applicants, number of candidates who could apply?
Policy of the collaborating institutions. We leave that to the institutions to decide among themselves, whether it is a cap or number of degrees or in which disciplines they would like to collaborate. These are issues that the higher educational institutions have to decide themselves. Right. So let me go to Prashant Nanda ji. Could you please unmute?
Sir, good evening. So a couple of questions. Very interesting move. Congratulations. Just want to understand how this new regulation is different than what already is happening in our country, especially at the university level. Number one. Number two, you said looking at the affordability of the courses, the fee needs to be reasonable. Can you define what exactly you mean by reasonable? Because reasonable is a very wide spectrum and different institutions interpret it differently. And the third point you mentioned is a very important point. That to enable students, the universities need to provide them an exit path. Can you elaborate on this too as well?
Right. So the difference between these new regulations and the previous one is that earlier we were not permitting the joint degrees. Now we permit joint degrees, dual degrees, and also twinning. So that is one major difference. The other difference is that earlier, if two universities have to collaborate, there was a very elaborate procedure for the approval. And now UGC want to make this procedure as simple as possible. Leave it to the wisdom of the higher educational institutions to discuss between themselves and come up with this collaboration. So the approval process is very, very simple here. In fact, if you are an entitled category institution, you don't have to come to UGC for any approval at all. And the third one, of course, is that whenever the foreign students come here and the Indian students go abroad, of course, there are living costs associated with that. And then there are tuition fees associated with that. So it is in the interest of both the institutions that they will work out a kind of fee structure which becomes affordable to both the students. For example, although it is not mentioned in the regulations, because we don't want to micromanage these kind of collaborations, it is quite possible that two institutions, as part of their collaboration, may like to introduce some scholarships for students who may not afford those kind of fee structures. But those students who are able to pay those kind of international fees, for example, for twinning, they may go there, because many of these students are anyway paying huge amounts to go abroad and study there. But now the difference is that they can stay at home and access this high quality education. So there are many new things that these collaborating institutions can think and make sure that those students who may not afford these fees, international fees, come up with some innovative ideas and innovative schemes to make it affordable to those students. Right. So let me go to Basant Mohanty. Could you please unmute?
Yeah, thank you. No, sir, I was asking that this particular regulation, a similar regulation has been there since 2012, which has been modified in 2016. Curious to know, has there been any MOU signed under the first regulation, which has been modified in 2016? If no, why? And one more, if I can add here, is that when you are making it 1000 THE and QS ranking 1000 will be allowed. Now, in different regulations of UGC, you have in other regulations, for example, which is for eminence, there is the target of reaching top 500 in THE or QS. So that is the ultimate objective of quality control. Now here, that 500 being compromised to 1000, is it not a quality compromise? That is just curious. Thank you.
All right. Basant Mohanty, you have been in the education field for so many years. I know you. You are a rich source of information. And in fact, you can tell me how many universities have entered into those kind of collaborations. And not many. And that is one of the reasons why we have modified these regulations. And in the meanwhile, the national education policy has opened the doors for us to make our education more flexible, more holistic, more multidisciplinary. In 2012 and 2016, we didn't have NEP. We have it now. And that is the reason why we have built a lot of flexibility into these new regulations. And we believe that this should encourage more institutions to go for collaborations. And as far as the institution of eminence and what you mentioned about the upper limit of 500, and if we make it 1000, is it not, as you claim, is it not dilution of the quality? Absolutely not. As far as our institutes are concerned, we want to become top 100. Why should we not dream of becoming among the top 100 of the global universities? But on the other hand, we also have to see that if you become too restrictive and you say that we will permit only top 10 universities in the world to come to India and then collaborate with us, that is being too restrictive. We need to look at the scale at which we have to make this education accessible to the students. As I mentioned, currently we have 4 crore students in the higher educational system, and this number soon is going to go up to 10 crores. So unless you expand the opportunities, how will you meet the aspirations of this increasing number of students? So therefore, be as flexible as possible while keeping the quality in mind. And that's the reason why we said that if you are among the top 1000 in the QS or the THE rankings, then a collaboration is possible. Right. So let me go to Ritika Chopra. Could you please unmute yourself?
Good evening, sir. Actually, 2 of my questions you've already answered, Basant and Prashant asked, but I just had 2 small clarifications. So one, when you say top 1000 in world university rankings, either QS or THE, they have different variants of rankings. There are also subject rankings. So when we say top 1000, are you talking about the overall rankings, or would that include
overall? This is overall ranking.
All right. And so another thing that you mentioned, that you're hoping that the new regulations will be able to will help Indian institutions attract more foreign students. and faculty, foreign faculty. What I wanted to understand, sir, is that even now, under the current setup, institutions do admit students, foreign students. There are faculty exchange programs. One of the reasons why Indian institutions don't end up attracting a lot of foreign students is because maybe we don't do that well in the international rankings, or the perception maybe is not that great. I'm just wondering, sir, how do you hope that these regulations may end up? Do you think that that expectation on these regulations may be a little misplaced, given that the problem is elsewhere, that our institutions don't maybe rank that well in international rankings?
Ritika, we need to look at the scale. Earlier also, there were some collaborations that were happening, and students do come to India to get admitted in our institutions. But then we want to increase that scale both ways. The number of foreign students who come into India and the number of Indian students who can stay back in India and access high quality international education. And these regulations will facilitate that. Earlier, as I said, before NEP was introduced, the regulations were too strict. There were too many conditions that had to be met. But however, now we are making the entire process flexible. As I said, there is no procedure at all now. As long as you are one of the entitled institutions as per the conditions given in the regulation, you can go for the collaboration. And Ritika, please do remember that even if we are not in the top whatever 100, 200, 300 rankings, global rankings in the world, believe me that our institutes are highly respected across the globe. And you can see the kind of the work our students are doing across the globe. So I don't agree with you that just because our institutions do not find themselves in the top 300, they are of any lesser quality. Our Indian institutions have very good reputation across the globe. So we need to make use of this reputation that our alumni have demonstrated themselves across the globe, and the kind of research publications that we have in international journals. All that strength that we need to use together with the flexible regulations that we are bringing in now to attract more foreign students. I'm sure with the introduction of these regulations, there will be a lot of foreign students who will be coming to India. Right. So let me now go to Jagrati. Could you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, sir, I just wanted to know, when are these regulations being placed on the website? And also, as somebody who's not very familiar with the education sector, I wanted to get a sense of how these partnerships among Indian higher educational institutions and foreign ones, how were they being governed so far? You speak about a certain hurdles that were there and the complex procedures. Can you talk about some of those?
Well, I can give you a copy of 2016 regulations. You can go through it. So to overcome some of the bottlenecks that we had in 2016 regulations, and in keeping with the vision of the national education policy, the new regulations are being announced now. And these regulations will be put up on the UGC website soon, in another few days. And once you have that, you will have a clearer picture. You can compare 2016 and 2022 regulations and understand for yourself how the current regulations will facilitate greater collaboration between Indian educational institutions and foreign educational institutions. Right. So let me now, Jagrati, you got muted, I think. Would you like to ask anything? Right. So now we have Basant Mohanty wants to ask again. Perhaps by now he got the information on how many such collaborations are there. Basant, would you like to tell me that information?
No. I mean,
Okay.
you have already given that that information.
Okay.
It's almost
okay. Maybe your earlier
No.
hand is still up by mistake.
No. I wanted to ask small two things.
Okay.
In your dual and the joint degree, if you could elaborate on the what is the difference? Because what you told is that 30% they will do there, and here also 30%. Then it appears to be very same one. And second is that why not online? Because in most of your regulations, online is a component of it. So why not online here?
Yes, one of the reasons we have limited this to the physical mode is that, you know, the experiential learning that you get when a foreign student comes to India, mingles with the other students, is something that will you know, bring in better relations between these two countries, because those students will learn more. It is not just only education. During holidays and during other time, they may go around, they may visit different places in the country, and they learn more about our country, right? A similar thing can happen for our students when they go there. They get an exposure to how things are done in a different country, and that's the reason why we have limited it to conventional programs. And the difference between the joint degree program and the dual degree program, in both cases, the students had to do more than 30% of the credits, right, in the other institutions, in the collaborating institutions. What is the difference between these two? In both cases, as far as the education is concerned, it is identical. But in the case of the joint degree program, the degree is given by only the Indian higher educational institution. Whereas the foreign degree, the foreign institution gives a certificate saying that, yes, these many courses were done by the student in our institution. Whereas in the case of the dual degree program, both the Indian higher educational institute will give the degree, indicating that these many credits are done by the student in a foreign university, and the foreign university will give its degree, indicating in the degree that the student has done some amount of these credits in their university. So it is the same degree, but both the Indian institution and the international institution will give the degree. That's the only difference between them. Right. So now let me go to Radhika. Could you please unmute yourself?
Sir, Radhika from Careers 360. Just a clarification, sir, what will be the physical attendance requirement for joint degree program and dual degree program?
So when the Indian students are studying in the Indian institution, they will follow whatever is the attendance policy of that institution. But when they visit a foreign university, they will follow whatever are the attendance requirements of the foreign university. And it is completely left to the individual institutions to decide on those matters. Right. So now let me go to Danesh Ravindran. Could you please unmute yourself?
Sir, I'm Danesh Ravindran from Asianet News.
Okay.
Sir, which are the list of countries that an Indian higher education institute can collaborate? Is any type of list or any MOU, like something like that, or it's free to cooperate with or collaborate with all the world universities or all the countries in that way?
Right. It is open. The Indian institutions can collaborate with any foreign university, except that they should be in the top 1,000, either QS rankings or THE rankings. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
So let me go to Manash from Times of India.
Hi, sir. Want to ask about, I actually missed many things in between because my network is having issues. Sir, what about the admission policies? Because you have, UGC has recently issued a lot of regulations regarding online degrees, admission to the 4-year degree program, then admission to central universities through CUET. So if a central university wants to collaborate with suppose if a foreign university from any European countries or US or other countries, and they give suppose a master's program or a undergraduate program in arts, humanities, or science. Now in India, that same course has to be the students have to be enrolled through CUET. Now, what will be the process like, and will this how will the seat sharing happen? Will there be additional seats, or will the same seats from which the admissions will take place?
Absolutely no change in the admission policy. The Indian university will continue to admit the students using the existing admission policies. And if there is a collaboration between a foreign university and Indian university, they have to work out how they will operationalize this collaboration. For example, they may give an option to the students. Those who are willing to do a twinning program, they may go for a twinning program, or they want to go for a dual degree program, a joint degree program, because nothing is mandatory here. It is only an optional choice that we are giving to the students.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Right. So I think with those comments, I would like to thank all of you once more for joining in this interaction. Friends, we will continue to meet like this and exchange information so that you can continue to inform our stakeholders in an understandable language. And thank you very much. Namaskar.